Indiana football looks sluggish during their win against Wisconsin, and injuries and O-line problems are starting to concern me.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day, and it's also the #1 sports podcasting network. This is a live edition of Locked On Hoosiers post-game following Indiana football's win over Wisconsin in the regular season home finale, 31-7. We'll break it down. We'll talk about the injury problems. We'll talk about the O-line concerns. Plus, we'll do likes and dislikes at the end. Fernando Mendoza's record-breaking day and a whole lot more. Indiana takes down Wisconsin 31-7. And it was sluggish, I think. It is the best way that I can describe it. The first half was not good. Indiana takes a slight lead into the locker room. And look, we know that Indiana, Kurt Cignetti, Brian Haynes, Coach Shanahan, like those guys make adjustments. We understand that. They are some of the best at making adjustments, but that shouldn't have to be the case against a 3-6 Wisconsin team playing a freshman at quarterback, right? It shouldn't have been as close as it was. But 31-7 at the end, it was a tale of two halves, really. 31-7, Indiana pulls away in the second half, uses a couple of turnovers. Wisconsin missed the field goal on the opening drive. I mean, it wasn't a pretty football game for most of it, honestly. And some pretty moments, sure. Some beautiful balls by Mendoza, a couple of nice plays by the defense, but overall, it just wasn't all that overwhelming good of a performance, if that's the best way to say that. So, but a win is a win, and you got it done on senior day. You got it done in what is most likely now your final game in Bloomington of the season, and a win is a win at this point. And so drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We're going to get to those as we go. Of course, like I said, we'll do likes and dislikes at the end as well. Run through some of the final stats. As look, stat sheet wise, yeah, Indiana dominated this game as they did on the final scoreboard. You outgained Wisconsin 388-168. So, I mean, you just blow them out of the water there. You didn't run the ball all that well. Okay, only 83 yards of rushing for Indiana on 37 attempts. Folks, that's just 2 yards a carry. Not all that great, but we know Wisconsin's strength, and it is the defensive front that they put on the football field, which is why they also had 5 sacks on the day, did Wisconsin. So that's an issue, and we're going to get to those O-line problems in just a moment for Indiana, but the Hoosiers throw it all over the place. All right, Indiana throws for over 300 yards. Mendoza has 4 passing touchdowns on the day, and he takes the record from Curtis Rourke, our hero from a year ago. Fernando Mendoza takes it from him. He now holds the most passing touchdowns in a single season in Indiana football history with 30, and you expect him to get a couple of more down the stretch of this season. So passing was definitely the game plan today for Indiana, and they do so taking down Wisconsin 31-7. Did not get penalized hardly at all for Indiana. I think you had 1, maybe 2 on the day. Elijah Saratt, of course, did not play today. We'll talk about that in injuries in just a moment, but you didn't turn the ball over. You forced a couple of turnovers, and overall, you did what you had to do. You got in, you won, and you got out. All right, you gave the fans what they wanted. Seniors got to play. Alberto Mendoza gets in the game down the stretch. Kobe Martin plays a little bit as your freshman running back. Overall, it was a fine game, but just sloppy to me, and just wasn't as fine-tuned as I want it to be. And that gets us into the 2 concerns that I have coming out of this game. It's the injuries, and it's the O-line play. The offensive line is going backwards. Their performance continues to go down, in my opinion, and that's scary. Okay, we saw the first glimpse of this against Iowa, right, when we went on the road to Kinnick Stadium, where the Hawkeyes used some of their big boys up front and got home to Fernando Mendoza. We saw it against Oregon, where they got home against Mendoza. We saw it a ton a week ago against Penn State, where they got home to Mendoza. And Wisconsin did it today. They get there for 5 sacks, does Wisconsin, on this Indiana offensive line. And one of them was a pretty scary hit on Mendoza late, where he had to go into the medical tent. He came out and gave the thumbs up. But, man, you can't be doing that. Okay, you cannot be giving up major holes and gaps and just complete miscommunications up front if you're this Indiana offensive line. Drew Evans came out a couple of times and then came back in. He missed a couple of blocks. There just doesn't seem to be cohesion right now on the offensive line. And folks, if they keep playing this way, Mendoza won't make it to a national championship game. Okay, if you keep giving up 4, 5, 6 sacks a game, not only will he not make it, but you're going to lose ball games because you can't trade punts with good teams and expect to win down the stretch. If you're giving up 5 sacks to Wisconsin, man, what's going to happen when you play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game? What's going to happen when you take on a team like Georgia in the SEC when they come and play you on a neutral site and they blitz the entire house and they come after you and land on Fernando Mendoza, right? Those things cannot happen. So I don't know if Indiana is in a position where they need to move some guys around, shake it up, brings in Nowakowski back in. I don't know what they need to do. But the offensive line is putrid at the moment, and it cannot, at least in pass pro, okay, at least in pass protection. Run blocking is fine. Again, that Wisconsin defensive front, that's the best unit they have on their team, all right, on either side of the football. And we knew that coming in. And we knew that they were going to bring pressure, and they also stacked the box. They're a pretty good run blocking team. I mean, that's what Wisconsin does. But Indiana should be better than what they were today. Indiana should be able to overcome those things, and running the ball for only 2 yards a carry is not impressive, and that's not good, which leads us into the injury concerns. All right, we'll do likes and dislikes coming up in just a little bit, but injury concerns continue to plague this Indiana team. Right, I mentioned Drew Evans a couple of times on the offensive line. Elijah Saratt obviously did not play again today. You didn't need him, but he didn't play. So he's still trying to get 100% healthy. We'll see if he plays coming off of a bye week right into Purdue. We'll see if he plays there to get you ready for a potential Big Ten championship game. We saw Kaelon Black take a pretty big hit today, a couple of big hits actually, and he came out shaken up. Didn't come back for most of the fourth quarter. That's why Kobe Martin was getting some good runs there late. You had several dudes in this game get banged up for Indiana. That's not good. And then I mentioned Fernando Mendoza, who took a big shot, went to the medical tent and said he was okay. But how many more hits can he take is what I'm saying. It was on the offensive side of the football today. We've seen some injuries on defense, yeah, but today it was the offense. And you cannot continue to stack those up and expect to compete for a Big Ten title or a national title. Indiana's got to get healthy. And I understand there's not a whole lot you can do. You can't just point at them and say, get healthy, don't get hurt. But you got to put your guys in spots to not get banged up the way that they are. And Indiana can't not afford many more offensive injuries because thankfully, you've had guys like Charlie Becker step up in the place of Elijah Saratt. Riley Nowakowski was a big deal today. He'll be one of my big likes because I've talked about him all year. He's been a huge addition and a late find for this Indiana team. But, man, you can't afford any more injuries on the offensive line, in the running back room, or to your receivers, or, God forbid, to your quarterback too. You've dealt with kicking injuries. You've dealt with defensive injuries. And every team is banged up at this point. I know that. But that's where my concerns lie right now for this Indiana team. But the Hoosiers defend home turf. They beat Wisconsin 31-7 on Senior Day. It's the final home game of the year for the Indiana Hoosiers, and Indiana and Curt Cignetti take care of business. So outside of the injuries and offensive line concerns, I do have some likes, and I have some more dislikes as well, and I know that you do too. So drop those in the YouTube comments. We talk likes and dislikes coming up next on this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. This live edition of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by DoorDash. It's the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP for today on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you win every Saturday with DoorDash Streak, saving more every time that you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. And I know we've picked Fernando Mendoza a ton. He still is your betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, but how could you not pick him? He went 22 of 24 today. 2 incompletions, 4 touchdown passes, 299 yards, and he's now the single-season touchdown record holder as a quarterback in Indiana program history. Fernando Mendoza was the guy that delivered today and every day for the Indiana Hoosiers, and just like he delivered for Indiana, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. Today's live episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. I told you, our friends at FanDuel, these are live odds on the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza is still the betting favorite. He's now minus 125 to win the Heisman Trophy, ahead of a Julian Sayin and Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, time for likes and dislikes here on this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here and joining us as we go live after every football and men's basketball game for the Indiana Hoosiers. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We just surpassed 7,000 subs on YouTube. So thank you so much for doing that. It's free, it's easy, and all it's going to do is notify you every time that we post new episodes, which we do every single weekday, and go live after these games as well. Let's do likes and dislikes. All right, I see a bunch of you in the comments, so be sure that you drop them in the comments, okay? And so let's talk about it. I already mentioned the injuries and the O-line concerns, and those are big dislikes for me. And I see some guys talking about Malik Benson in there, Drew Evans in there, and I'm with you. Again, the offensive line is probably my biggest dislike of the day, but my biggest like is that this Indiana team just doesn't worry. They don't care. They're not concerned. This was a one-possession game at the half, and you wouldn't know it in the second half. Just pure domination on all sides of the football. Indiana defense came to play today. Again, they got after a freshman quarterback. And look, I know that Wisconsin team, man, we're talking about injuries, but they are just decimated. I mean, they're a shell of a football team right now. And Indiana's defense took advantage of that, okay? You hammer them and just suffocate them, really. 168 total yards for a P4 team. Not good if you're Wisconsin. They ran for just 70. They passed for just 98. And so they just didn't have a whole lot of success outside a few in the beginning. And so that was a like for me, is this Indiana defense continuing to play up to a high level of standard. Talking again, likes and dislikes. Eddie says they definitely need Saratt back on this team. You can tell, right? I mean, you can tell when Saratt's not on the field. Indiana has done okay. Omar Cooper had a good game today, other than the one drop that he wishes he had back. Mentioned Charlie Becker. He's continuing to be a like. How about my boy Riley Nowakowski? How about my man, Riley Nowakowski? I have been talking about the slip tight end screens time and time again, and every time Indiana runs one, it goes for 25, 30, or 40 yards. Every time, and they ran one today, and he gets down the sideline, puts the Hoosiers in scoring position. That's what the Hoosiers need to do. Call that once a game. If you call that one time per game, it will be successful, and Riley Nowakowski is a big weapon for this Indiana offense. Holden Stays had a catch today as well. But yes, Elijah Saratt needs to be on the field. He's the best guy you have on offense. And I think he will be when you start to get into games that are truly meaningful. And I hate to say that about a game like today or even the Purdue game coming up in a couple of weeks, but you clearly didn't need him. And so big likes for me are the receiving core, the receiving group. I saw Brady had a couple of catches there down the stretch. Also like to see Kobe Martin get some run. I know it was because of Kaelon Black being banged up, but man, that running game's got to get going a little bit more. And Indiana, I thought they played a little timid today. And some of the decisions by Curt Cignetti were a little, I don't know. I don't want to say scared, but just very, very limited compared to what the Hoosiers normally do. I didn't feel the cutthroat edge today by the Hoosiers. Just seemed very just kind of going through the motions. And yeah, we'll win this game when in due time, and we'll wear them down, and we'll beat the bunch of third and fourth string players that Wisconsin throws out there. And that's kind of what happened. And so didn't love that. I didn't like that from Indiana, but it is what it is. Yep, we talked about the O-line, and the guy talks about really hoping he doesn't get hurt, talking about Fernando Mendoza. He says, but if he does, Alberto got to step his game up. And look, I think Alberto has played fine in the games and in limited moments that he gets in. And I like the running game for Fernando and or Alberto, whichever one's in the football game. I think both of them use their legs very well and makes it dangerous to defenses. So Tin Man asks, how do you think today's performance impacts Fernando's chance to win the Heisman? I think he only improved his Heisman odds today. I mean, how could you not like what Fernando Mendoza did today? If you missed it, here's what he did. 22 of 24, 299 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Folks, do you know what his quarterback rating was today? 251. That's insane. 251 was his quarterback rating, a 92% completion percentage, and he took the record from Curtis Rourke and now has more passing touchdowns in a single season than anybody in the history of Indiana football. The dude is your Heisman Trophy winner. Did he have a go-to Heisman moment today? No, but he didn't need one because he had it last week against Penn State. So, Tin Man, I think Mendoza, all he did was boost his odds, and our friends at FanDuel say the same thing. He is the running away favorite right now to win the Heisman Trophy in New York City. Continuing on, the wind was a factor on play calling. Yes, that's a good point. They mentioned it a ton on the broadcast, and I know that it was windy, but since when does that stop Indiana? Since when does something like that go against Indiana? I know you can't throw as many deep go balls, but I'm even talking like in some of those midfield situations on 4th and short where Indiana just decided to punt it away. What was the one? Was that late in the second quarter or the third quarter? I'm trying to remember, where Mendoza stayed on the field thinking they were going to go for it in like a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and got pulled off the field, and the Hoosiers punted it away. Like, those just aren't things that Indiana has been doing this year. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a get in, get out situation for Indiana today against Wisconsin. But overall, you do what you're supposed to do. All right, Indiana wins 31-7. Trying to think of any more likes and dislikes. I pretty much hit on them all. Mendoza, receivers, running the ball was not good today. But overall, the defense was lights out per usual. A couple of turnovers in there. I think that's probably a good spot to be. I did see somebody before the stream went live talking about other scores around college football. Texas A&M, I'm pulling this up as we speak. Folks, they were down, I think it was like 30-3 or something like that. It was 30-3 at the half. And with 10:45 to play in the fourth quarter, the third-ranked team in the country has taken the lead back. It is 31-30, Texas A&M over South Carolina. So just to keep that in mind, I saw a few people talking about that. But here's what lies ahead for your Indiana Hoosiers, who are now 11-0 on the season and looking to cap off the best regular season in program history. You're now on a bye. So all those injury things we talked about, I like the idea that you get a week off before you play Purdue on Black Friday. That's on the road at night there in West Lafayette. So keep that in mind, as Indiana will be off this coming week. Will then play the day after Thanksgiving, where then you're hoping that you are preparing then for a Big Ten championship game. And then you're preparing for the college football playoff. And so, again, was today the prettiest thing we've seen? No, but that Wisconsin team beat a top 25 team a week ago. So the fact that you go in and don't look good, I consider it sloppy, and you still win by more than 3 touchdowns, that's good stuff from Indiana. I mean, it just shows why they are one of the best teams in the country. So, yep, Haley, South Carolina pulling off a major choke job. You're right. I don't have it pulled up, but I will once we're done here. And that doesn't really impact Indiana. It was just kind of fascinating to see what was happening down below the Hoosiers. But overall, good win today. Got to get healthy. Use the bye week. Got to make some adjustments on that offensive line. Figure out how to run the football again and protect Fernando Mendoza at all costs. All right. So that will wrap up likes and dislikes. That will wrap up today's Locked On Hoosiers live show. It was fun today, and I'm hoping to see a much better performance against Purdue. You expect them to be fired up in a couple of weeks for a rivalry game. But don't you worry. We're right back here tomorrow as Indiana basketball plays tomorrow afternoon. Isn't that a 5:30 tip? Is that right for the Hoosiers for a 5:30 Eastern? Let me pull that up just to double check. Let's see, get it pulled up here as Indiana basketball back in action in Assembly Hall. Yes, 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central, Indiana basketball hosting Incarnate Word. So we will have a live show tomorrow evening right here on Locked On Hoosiers on the YouTube channel. And we post the audio on the audio feeds right afterwards as well on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, you name it. We are there as well. Okay, so make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us however you can. And thank you so much for being here. We're having a ton of fun, and I appreciate you all coming in, engaging with the show, and being a part of Locked On Hoosiers. So we are back tomorrow for a live show, okay, following Indiana basketball against Incarnate Word, and then a normal episode on Monday morning for you on YouTube and on our audio platforms as well. Okay, Hoosier fans, Indiana takes down Wisconsin 31-7. Back tomorrow for another live episode for basketball, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.